Well, thanks for joining us today for our first episode of Tea with the Team, where we get the scoop from industry experts in senior care, home health care, tech startups, and more. My name is Jill, and I'll be hosting. Our idea for this came from when our Herewith team is in office together in San Francisco. We have some of our best conversations and ideas just getting outside, taking a walk, finding new fun places to get a nice beverage, and getting in some real talk. So grab a matcha, grab your coffee, your Diet Coke, and let's spill the tea. Today we're here with Alice, the Customer Journey Director of Herewith. Thanks for joining us, Alice.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And first, what are you drinking today? Do you have any tea?
No tea, but a little mango juice.
Very nice. All right, so let's just dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Herewith?
So I do like a few different things at Herewith. As the customer journey manager, I kind of oversee the day-to-day of the call center and help users when they get stuck using the product in their care journey in general. As director of customer journey, I also do a little bit of UXR, which is user experience research, where I'll look at the whole picture of all of our users, caregivers, and family members, and just kind of gather insights for the team and share those insights. And then together we kind of come up with solutions to make our product better.
Cool. So Herewith, for people who may not know, is a platform where families, older adults, and even like healthcare providers and other businesses can book care on an easy-to-use platform. There's a mobile app, and it's been pretty interesting, I think I can say, bringing technology into the senior care space. So Alice, from your perspective, what's exciting to you about that? And maybe what are a few of the challenges that come along with that?
Yeah. The part that's most exciting is in general, I just have a lot of family members who've gone through the senior care space. And so I kind of tagged along with them, heard their stories over the years and kind of the problems that they have. And also just as an experience of a child of mother and father who were caregivers, an understanding of how their job impacts their the day-to-day life. It was really fun or interesting that our company decided to go into senior care, because I thought I was the only one who was gonna not do senior care and go into like a completely different industry, which is technology. And so I had a lot of ideas and insights as to, how the current industry works, some things that could be helpful. So that's kind of what I think makes me super excited about the tech space. Is I think I've just experienced or heard a lot of the challenges, and it's kind of fun working with a great group of people to come up with solutions and kind of create a new way of maybe providing care, getting care. And in regards to some of the challenges, I think some of the biggest challenges have been, bringing those two worlds together, because I think in general, they tend to be quite separated, where you have a tool and then there's care, which is so personal. Kind of blending those together has been a bit of a challenge, because there's the challenge of actually building something that works with the industry. There's the challenge of the users getting used to a new way of using technology to get the care that they need. And then there's also the challenge of us learning about the industry, because I think as a team, I think we have a lot of technology experts. And so just bringing in that knowledge, we have to learn, basically.
It's interesting over the years. I mean, I come from a writing background, a teaching background, and so I've had to learn a lot about senior care and in-home care and all of these things as well. And I feel like that's one really common theme, not just for us in our professional roles, but for actually the families and people who need care. it's this whole web of systems and insider knowledge, and you don't know about it at all until you need to. And that is just something that hits home over and over again, what you don't know, and then you really, really need to know it. And so there's that friction point where families and, even healthcare providers and people like that, like, they need this service, but they can't figure out how to get it. So hear that. I just wanted to follow up. You mentioned that you kind of started off as a user experience researcher. Now you're in the role of customer journey director. You have this unique position of blending the data and the real world experience, which I think just dovetails so perfectly with the platform itself and the strengths and challenges of it. And so I'm wondering, how do you combine that user research, data-driven approach that, as a startup, your stakeholders are looking for that, as businesses, we have to kind of justify our decisions, but also you're on the ground kind of hearing the real stories from people and hearing their daily struggles, and their names. So how do you kind of combine those like nuggets of insight from talking to real people with like the boring data side?
I was actually surprised at how well those two kind of different ways work together. The way I kind of look at it is like the data collection gives me like a bird's level eye view of, how our users are navigating the application, navigating the experience, and really helps me understand where the biggest blockages are so we can attack the biggest challenges and then keep making the product better. Whereas like now with the customer journey, I get to see the day-to-day, which helps me understand their feelings, because the person that talks to us, that means there's probably maybe two other people that didn't get a chance to explain their point, or they may have come upon this frustration and weren't able to express it. So it actually works really well to be customer journey manager and having that UX background. Yeah.
That makes total sense. I feel like you are the bridge for us to the people. And I know from experience of just working with you, all the different times when, yes, best practices might have us design, a sign-up flow or, some piece of the journey in a certain way. Here's a best practice. But then, you get on the phone with real people who are like, actually, that word makes no sense. What we call it is this word, and we should really be reflecting that in the app or on the website or on emails that we're sending to people so they know what we're talking about. And that to me is just like, yeah, that bridge is just so invaluable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I am also just curious. We know, because we work together, a lot of people don't know that much about finding in-home care, as we mentioned earlier, until they are truly desperate for it. Maybe there's a health event, somebody has surgery and needs some help with rehab, or some transportation needs that came about suddenly, or some respite care. Suddenly you can't take care of your parent because you have other obligations that came up or things like that. What would be, not to put you on the spot, but a little to put you on the spot, what would be one piece of advice you have for families who find themselves in this position of suddenly starting this search for caregiving, whether it's in their home or in a senior living facility, or what's your advice for them?
I'll backtrack a little bit. I would say I would give this to anybody, this advice. Like, start thinking about care right now before it's a necessary subject, whether you're 20 years old or you're looking into possibly retiring in the next few years. I think that conversation about care should be an ongoing conversation that you have with your loved ones, just because the need for care happens so suddenly. Some people, it happens, like in their 50s. Some people, it's way later when they're in their 80s and 90s. But what is common amongst all of them is that it was a sudden event. It was not something that they were prepared for necessarily. It wasn't something that they foresaw. It was a medical crisis, something that happened within a week, and they needed to start looking for care right away. And I think once you enter into needing care, the options are actually much lower if this is the first time that you're starting that conversation about needing care. Maybe when you were, like for me, I specifically decided to move. I always move close to family just in case you are in need of care. My advice, if you are now looking for care, really talk to the first person you should talk to is the care recipient. See what they are open to, see what they're comfortable with, see what their needs are. That's the first one, because I think that will really help direct where you want to go. The second thing is also look within yourself as to what your capacity for helping is. I know a lot of family caregivers who want to do this. Of course, we loved our loved ones. We want to be there for them. We want to support them. But sometimes when we try to be the ones to provide care for them at home, we end up running ourselves ragged, where we're the ones now needing care and having medical issues and not really living our full lives. And then we start looking for maybe additional services a bit too late. So I would also look within yourself and see, what can I do? What can we kind of fit together? That way it's not also only on one person to provide the care. Really ask your friends and families for assistance. Even a neighbor stopping by can be really helpful for you before you need that personal care. The third one is, I think, when I first started researching about care, I personally thought, okay, care at home is the best way. You need to care for your family members. That's the best care situation for everybody. Truth is, after really talking to families, different people, every care situation is probably different, and you need to find something that works best for you and your family members. Sometimes a facility may be the right option for you guys in finding the right facility that will help you and your family out. Sometimes having the person move in with you might be the right choice for you guys, but really looking at it as maybe there's more options, maybe research a little bit. Sometimes it could be a combination. You might need to do a little bit, maybe mom is at a facility all weekend, you might want to bring her home for the weekend. Just figure out what's going to be the best care option for you and your family members, I think. Yeah, that was a bit long, but love talking about care.
Yeah, I feel like we could just package that up and send that to people as like, here, please take this. And that also leads me into another topic that is, here at Herewith, we are a platform where families can find private care. So that really speaks to what you're talking about with a customized solution. They can get like 2 hours of care on Saturday when, everyone's busy doing stuff with the kids and they can't check on mom and dad, or they can get, specialized care for someone who needs like dialysis or memory care, or, we have very customizable options that you can really slot into your life after asking yourself those very eloquent and deep questions that you mentioned. So I don't know if you could speak a little bit just about how you see Herewith kind of helping to solve those problems that people can have with other types of care, whether it's, going to traditional agencies or even relying on like family members. How do you see like private care fulfilling like a different niche for people?
I think the unique thing about Herewith is that we could be the main service provider, or we can be an add-on. I think what is missing in the industry currently is a customizable experience. I think everybody has like this standard package that they want, and for good reason, because most of these agencies are mom and pop shops. It's not like they have a ton of resources. So it's completely understandable as to why there are these, hard set rules within the industry, hourly minimums, It's usually quite a costly thing for most families. And usually most agencies only want families that are doing like full-time or at least 30 to 40 hours per week. So it becomes really hard if you need a bit of customizing. In the industry right now, you just have to take what they have. And sometimes it ends up being actually at the detriment of care for the care recipient and also just not a great experience for the family members. And so I think what makes Herewith better is that we give the helpers, the caregivers, and the families a little bit more of a voice in the actual care process. I think you can talk about what is actually needed for the care recipient in a more transparent way that maybe with an agency or with a facility you might not be able to. Now, also, I think what's amazing is that even these great agencies and facilities provide really great care, but sometimes you need a little additional help. Sometimes a caregiver calls out, and in those times, there's really a gap. There's no one there to fulfill that gap. There are a lot of couples that care for each other as they're growing older, but sometimes when one of them needs a little bit more care, it neglects the other one. So maybe like getting somebody to come in and help your parents for the weekend, where maybe mom can go get her nails done, get her hair done, really spend some time to take care of herself. It's really necessary just for the longevity of how they're providing care at home. I think having that option to customize to kind of get the care when you need it. I think the other thing that's really unique about our platform is that you talk directly with the caregivers, which really helps you get the exact care that you need. Those little things that just customize the entire experience, I think really make a difference in the general care of the care recipient, the families, everybody's just a little bit happier.
Yeah, those relationships can be very special, like over time as that trust builds up. And I know that's a major part of people looking for care is just finding that fit for their family and that person who's gonna message them and be like, hey, here's what happened today. Here's a little overview. I know that type of connection is really important. And also for, not just for families, but for the caregivers, or on here we call them helpers. That's really rewarding, which also brings me to my next question, which is just getting a tiny bit, I don't want to hold you too long, but just getting a tiny bit into the other side of in-home care, which is the professional caregivers, the people providing care as a service on Herewith. They're called helpers. What are your insights on talking to caregivers and what brings caregivers to private care, such as we have on Herewith, where they're working directly for clients versus like agencies or other, maybe working for a facility staff or things like that? What are like the benefits that bring them to this?
So I'll start in general. I think what brings people to the industry of caregiving is just all of them have they have a lot of empathy. So they really want to make a difference. They want to listen to this care recipient. They want to know they're making a difference. I think also most of them have provided care to a family member before. So they have that personal experience of knowing, oh, when I cared for my mom and I was able to brush her hair and do it the way that she used to do it when she was able to, it just made her day. So like those stories and those moments really connect to the caregivers, and they just want to continue kind of like, being able to provide that service to their community now. What makes our platform a bit different than maybe the other jobs that are available on the market is, I think for one, when we talk about facilities, it can be really hard for caregivers. It can be a great experience. But like I mentioned, the reason why people start caregiving is they want to make a difference in the care recipients' lives. They want to have those moments of connection. They want to have that personal connection. And in a facility, oftentimes you might be one caregiver to 4 to 12 different care recipients. And so when all of them need brief changes, they need showers, they need feeding, they need food prep. There's not that much time to have that emotional connection and really be able to maybe support the care recipient as you would like to. So let's say mom is having she just doesn't want to wake up today. Well, in a facility, you've got to get her up and get her dressed and get her going because you have other people. And if you're delayed, that means other people might be delayed and so forth. And so I think in the private sector, they find that they're able to kind of put the care recipient first versus putting the task first necessarily. Also, I think in private care, caregivers get paid a little bit more. In a facility, of course, the facility has a lot of cost to it. And so it does, to some extent, limit how much these facilities are able to offer the caregivers. Also, in agencies, I find that they may be a little bit higher than a facility necessarily as far as pay, but not significantly. Most of the fees, about 50%, can go to the agency themselves in the fees that the families are paying. So sometimes all of that money that you're paying for a private caregiver isn't actually even going to the caregiver, it's going to the agency. And so on our platform, the caregivers are able to negotiate for themselves a little bit more and say, the value that I provide to families is worth $20, $30 per hour. We only take a 20% cut. The majority of that fee is actually going directly to the caregiver. The other big benefit, I would say, from personal experience is that ability to pick your schedule. So like I mentioned, both of my parents worked as caregivers. And so like when my parents worked at facilities, getting picked up from school, she had to call some neighbors, she had to patch some things together. That ability to have a more customized experience, a customized schedule, really did make a huge difference in how I was able to spend time with my parents.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing insight and experience. My last question is, if you want to answer, that is, we love a hot take. As we know, all tea times are about, spilling the tea on like things that are happening, whether it's in your job or like a funny story that randomly happened to you. Do you have anything good for us? Liven our weary work days.
Anything spicy? Nothing spicy that's happened. I will say the most spicy take that I have is I'm curious to see actually how the US in general handles the senior care as it's growing and the supply and the pool of people who can service these people gets lower and lower. And as people in general start colliding with family members who need care and just learning about that world, I'm really curious to see how society in general changes. Because I know, just knowing about care myself, it impacted how I move. So I try to always live close to family members because you never know what needs you might have and how we can support each other. It also impacts, how I kind of start having conversations with my family members. Even now, I start talking about what type of care I might need and how I like to be cared for, how I like my coffee, just in case I actually need care. So I'm really interested to see how this big problem, I think, that we kind of see coming down the line, but we aren't really creating social solutions for how that will impact how we as a culture associate with each other. I think it'll bring families closer together. I think it'll bring people closer together because I think care, when you know somebody's in care, it doesn't matter what their income, race, age, whatever thing, you kind of understand what that means if you've seen it, and then you just want to try to help as much as possible. So it might be one of those things that bring us all together as a whole. So, it's my positive.
Always bringing it back to the big questions. I mean, all good tea sessions end with a little existential questioning, I think. Let's dig into the deep stuff. That was really great. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and your experience. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us on Tea with the Team. We hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have any questions you think we should ask our guests, any hot topics we should cover, whether it's about in-home care, technology, actual tea, let us know. And please like and subscribe for more. Thanks.